Sorry about that. I didn't know why the mic was mic was off for some reason. Can you guys hear me good? Is the connection coming through clear? It looks like it's getting a few drops here on OBS. Let me make sure. The connection's been spotty all week, so we'll see if we can do a live stream tonight. I'm putting in faith that the connection will hold out. Just want to go ahead and get a few checks here, and then we'll get started. Awesome. Let's see. Is audio coming through now? Just go ahead and get a few confirmations in chat, and we'll get rolling into this. Got some things to catch up on, some things that I know you guys wanted me to talk about. Awesome. Okay, it's flooding with yes. It's awesome. Well, anyways, thank you guys for hopping in the live stream tonight. For those of you who are joining later, thank you as well for hopping on the live stream as well. We've got a few things we're going to talk about today. More than anything, I want to start jumping into your questions as always on the live stream. We'll probably get to that in about 15, 20 minutes. I want to run through a few things here as we go throughout the live stream. First thing I want to talk about is general crypto markets. We'll do a little bit further analysis on this in a little bit. For the moment, Bitcoin's been taking a slight dip, getting some rejection at the 100-day. Again, kind of going back to my points here to keep things short, we need to see this get above at least the 50 and 100-day before we're going to get any short-term rally. And to get a full swing altcoin cycle, as many people want, we need to get above this 200-day. Very simple, guys. I'm not doing any active trading right now, keeping things quite simple at the moment, waiting for the trend to form as we've been pushing sideways in this market. There's no need to overcomplicate it. As always, want to share some cool things with you guys. You should definitely check out this documentary I just found out about today. I'd had it up for a little while, but I hadn't got around to watching it. It's called The Princes of the Yen. It's a central bank truth documentary that covers really a little bit under the last century of Japan and its monetary policy between the Ministry of Finance and the Bank of Japan, which is generally the equivalent of, say, the Federal Reserve in the United States. It's the central bank that helps to manage monetary policy and enforce lending practices. So really, really interesting documentary. Haven't even gotten to watch the whole thing. I got about an hour through it, but I'm going to keep on watching it later on tonight. So I'll go ahead. If you guys want, I'll drop the link into chat. You guys can find it on YouTube whenever you get the chance. It should be on there for free, as I have it up here, but really good documentary. Recommend you guys check into it if you get some time, if you guys like this kind of in-depth documentaries on banking. Now I want to spend some time here to talk a little bit on the Oyster Pearl kind of fiasco that's gone on. I think a lot of people were kind of concerned about my silence on it for the time being, and I wasn't being so much silent, but I didn't really make a tweet or a post going out and kind of conveying my opinion or where I was standing at the moment. And at the time, back about a week ago, when it was really headline news, there was a recent issue, for those of you who don't know, that Oyster Pearl on KuCoin had a mass dump of the tokens because Bruno Block, who is the anonymous founder of Oyster Pearl, went about abusing a tool or a flaw within the smart contract that created Oyster Pearl, and with that generated a ton of tokens and pretty much dumped it on exchange and cleared right through the order book. So basically what people saw at the time looked like an exit scam from the entire team. Now, I was working with very limited information, as most people were. I was an advocate supporter of Pearl as well, and I think a lot of people wanted me to kind of talk on this. So my position at the time, like most things, until there's enough information for me to make a conscious kind of remark on any given issue, I wanted to wait. I wanted to see what happened, and I thought I might as well go ahead and talk about it today, because just a few days ago, they just announced their response to it. They're creating a new token labeled as Opacity, and it's basically going to be, from what I can read, generally Oyster Pearl, but it's going to be a token swap in this case. So basically, this is their way of solving it. Now, they're still working out the issues with Bruno Block, the anonymous founder, who supposedly exit scammed and dumped a lot of the tokens. And they're going to continue doing what they were doing in the first place, building a really interesting application to obviously get rid of the need for advertisers and then also fix the issue of providing cheap cloud storage in this case. So really, really like the idea that they're switching to it. It seems like a nice branding and a nice kind of pivot from, you know, this fiasco of an event. And if you guys want to kind of catch up on it, you can go to their Medium here, where they've been covering the issue. Now, a lot of people are saying, Nick, do you still like what originally was known as Oyster? Do you like, I guess in this case, Opacity? I still love the project, guys. The one thing I'd say is a criticism, and again, it's very easy for me to sit on my high throne here on my YouTube channel and be critical. I'm very open-minded, and I understand that the team has probably gone through a lot. One thing I will say that I think the community really wanted that Oyster didn't provide at the time, or at least the head team of Oyster didn't provide, was an open video communicating really what was going on, explaining how they were going to respond to it, etc. And there just hasn't been that. And I can tell you how valuable that is within the crypto ecosystem. Now, they did reach out to me. William reached out to me, I think on Twitter, or someone from the Oyster team reached out and they wanted to do a video. I'm tending not to really do interviews with projects, guys. And the reason I kind of rejected that was because if they want to do a video, they can do an AMA for their community. Not all my audience, knows about Oyster. So I thought I'd talk about this again because some of you were bringing that up and I wanted to clarify my kind of stance. It's good to see they're responding. More than anything, though, I think there needs to be more communication. I can tell you if I launch a token or coin of any sort, I'm going to make sure I'm there 24/7 to talk to you guys about it, not to shill it, but to make sure you know what's going on in developments, whether it be positive or in a bad situation. That's provable, probable or not probable. I guess it's proper leadership in regards to crypto, and just as it is with the startup. So again, you guys can go read through the Medium article on it from William Cortez, who's the CEO originally of Oyster, now known as Opacity. Interesting to see how they're pivoting there. I like the name. All right, so I'll go ahead and close out of some of these tabs and get down towards an article I was reading here on Zero Hedge. Really like this one. It's kind of, I think, stereotypical of Zero Hedge, common stuff here, but I think it's important to read. The tailwinds of the bull market have shifted. And the article really kind of summarizes around, what's been keeping up the market here, and also talking about the difference between what's been the narrative for the past 10 years in equity markets, especially in the United States, of BTFD, which is basically saying buy the dip, and the question of whether or not this is just another correction, what we've seen in the market. As stock buybacks have started to flow back in, equities have started to rally back up. So the question is this just simply another correction, of 10% back in the market values of the indices in the U.S., and then are we going back to all-time highs? And in the article, as always, they're kind of pushing more of a bearish narrative here, but I do want to talk about really the absolute essential things that are keeping up equities at this point. A lot of people don't know that back in 2015 and 2016, we were looking for a correction. Equities were pretty much exhausted. There was already enough stock buybacks going on, enough capital coming into equities in that case. Logan, thanks very much, man. I appreciate the donation. Thank you, man. But yeah, I mean, to the point in regards to equity markets, I remember I was trading back in 2015, 2016. There was fears in China. There was a slowdown on the global stage, and a lot of people were really worried. Also with the a small crisis that was going on in emerging markets with the overproduction of commodities. And we're going to talk about this in my big video that I'm putting out, hopefully in the next few weeks here. But after that, those issues started to brew. A lot of people thought, okay, U.S. equities were set for a pullback, but there was a really big shift. And again, when I bring up politics, guys, I don't want you guys to get too hostile. This is really just going to be simply fact here. There was a really big change, and that was the election in 2016. And what came with that, with the election of Donald Trump, was the implementation of the new tax law in the United States. And it's a very important thing to understand the ramifications that came with it, whether they be positive or negative. I got to tell you all, and at least in the sense of tax policy, I've always been fine. I believe, especially if you're doing global trade and you're competing with other economies, you want to keep corporate tax low. I've been kind of calling for that for years. I always wanted to see it drop from around 35% to 15%. But there was an issue that came with these new tax laws. As much as they've had some positive ramifications, they've also had, I think, some unforeseen consequences. And this has really been where the money's flown. They did exactly what they were meant to do. So we can see, for example, if we take a look here at corporate America, or repatriation of money, generally from corporate America, having money overseas from either manufacturing operations or originally investing US dollars in foreign countries and not wanting to bring it back. Now we've seen with the shortened window where repatriation tax, the repatriation tax was dropped for corporations, money inflow came into the United States. It went in, pretty dramatically in the first 2 quarters, and we can see it's in the hundreds of billions. Again, we haven't seen something like this since the tax cuts back in 2005. Now, this would have been a very big boost for the U.S. economy, and we have seen some of this money go into investments. There was a big issue, though, and that was that it wasn't specified that this money had to be invested in a specific way. And we've got a very big, almost Ponzi-like equities market that has continued to rally over the past decade while the underlying economy has been kind of flat. And all this money from overseas flowing back, most of it has gone into stock buybacks or increasing dividends for shareholders. And this is why we're seeing record levels of stock buybacks and dividends that we've never seen in history and have surpassed even levels that we saw back in 2007 at the peak of the previous rally. So very, very important stuff to understand, that really the two things I would say that are still keeping up this market is that equity is still relatively historically cheap due to low interest rates, and the in the sense as well, the repatriation of money flowing out of emerging markets, other economies around the world, and into the U.S. equities. And we can see this. I mean, I can go ahead and I'll show it on the chart here, guys. It's a very important thing to come into in regards to realization. A lot of people don't take a look at these different composites. This is the Shanghai composite in China, and it's been making lower and lower lows ever since 2018. Now, you can attribute some of this to possibly other geopolitical things like trade wars and different things like that, but really, this is an outflow of money, people selling off equities and putting it into other markets. And right now, the Shanghai composite's hitting a resistance point that used to be support. Not a good sign for China, one of the larger emerging markets. And again, we can look across the board. We have a mixture of currency crises, debt crises. It is not a pretty time for this to happen for emerging markets, but it did happen. And it has definitely made the U.S. more competitive in that case. We cannot deny that with a drop in corporate tax and other factors like that. Chen Yi said, "Hello, Nicholas. I'm learning so much from you, and always wanted to share some appreciation." Chan, thank you very much, man. I appreciate the donation. I really, really appreciate. I appreciate all the support that you guys have given to the channel. I'm glad you guys are learning, and again, really appreciate it. Thank you. Let's see here. I'll go ahead and dive into some questions. I've rambled on enough, guys. But feel free to ask questions about the topics we ran through. Noth said, Opacity did a video I made. That's good. I was saying for well over a week that they should have done one. They should have done one when things were happening after they started to get things sorted out. But nonetheless, they did one, so it's better late than never. You know, Crypto Soldier brought up a point here. People need to know what is really going on in our markets. And it's interesting, Crypto. You know, the people who really do move equity markets, I think they know what's going on. There's a lot of people who bought on the previous dip here. I was considering even doing a trade here on the recent dip. As I mentioned in the daily updates, I've been kind of off and on, even though I believe we're stepping closer and closer towards a longer-term grind, not a flash sale in the markets. Maybe we might get a small one, but I think it's going to be a longer-term recession. But even with that, I was still thinking about making a trade because, as we saw on the chart, as I was talking about in my last daily update, we started to see the retracement of the buyback blackout period where companies can now start repurchasing more of their shares. And we know that that's what's been propping up markets here. It's these billions of dollars coming back, going straight into equities. And, you know, some people might not see a problem with that. Some do. You know, it's just fact. And you know, it's the fact of the matter in this case. We have to accept it for what it is. And, you know, make change if we need to. Alejandro said SEC versus Ether Delta. Yeah, the general summarization that I got from that, and I definitely might consider talking about that in the daily update tomorrow. For me, the general summary that I get is that the Ether Delta had a lot of centralized aspects to it. And the fact is that if you're going to have these decentralized exchanges, you do need anonymous founders. You need highly vetted open source code. For these to actually work if you're going to have anonymous founders. We've learned that with Pearl, Oyster Pearl in this case. And it's got to be enough to where there's enough cryptocurrency trading, cryptocurrencies are a mainstream market, to really have an effect, I think. And at that point, it's going to be a really shake-up to where the SEC and other regulatory agencies can't control it, especially if it's anonymous. That is going to be really opening up Pandora's box. But who knows if that's going to come in the next few years, or if decentralized exchanges will really be able to scale enough. We might be able to see it, but let's see. Richard said, I agree with Chan. Please keep up the amazing work. I feel like I've moved from a total novice to someone with a clue. Richard, I appreciate that. I'm glad you feel like you're getting some intellect from it. That's why I try to cover a broad amount of markets. What I try to give to you guys, as much as I can, is a macro perspective on things. I repeat a lot of things, but it's important because I'm kind of trying to drill in not so much what to think, but how to approach the world in a case, to not jump the gun right away and think that everything is so either black or white. It's a very, very interesting kind of, I would say, mixture of different types of markets and scenarios and different people with different value sets and beliefs on how the world operates, and they've got their money in different areas, and it's fun to follow it. I follow a lot of simple principles in life, and it's that kind of street smart approach that really lets me learn a lot about the world. Don't get everything right, but I do have a decent understanding of things, and it keeps me from getting caught up in the day-to-day noise that surrounds the world. Daniel Duvall said, jumped the stream chat here. He said, don't sleep on marijuana stocks, folks. Regardless of your views, with legalization on the horizon, those companies will only grow. It's interesting, Daniel. I was years ahead on that train, thinking that was it was going to come in America and stuff, and it looks like we're going to probably get that within 2018 to anywhere, around 2020, 2022. I think that's really going to be where we see it in America, but we're already seeing, I think we just got 3 new states that I know, at least I think it was Michigan, that had a statewide vote to federally, recreationally legalize marijuana. So that was a pretty big game changer. Real quick, I saw we got, let me see, we got 2 donations here. Matt Wick, thoughts on Phantom, took a position A. Matt, I was keeping with it during the ICO. I like DAGs, but I want to see some. I never got to see a test net of the actual Phantom network working. They had some really high hopes for scalability and everything. So I'll have to do a little bit of research into it and kind of catch up and see where they are. There's a lot of ICOs that promise high transaction throughput. Justin R., thank you very much, man. Love your content. Thank you for your continued contribution to the space. Keep producing unbiased content. Neo, Ontology, Elastos, and Sol. I don't know what Sol is, but that's interesting. Yeah, Justin, I'm still, I met a few people actually in Malta who are working on the Neo protocol, obviously very close to Ontology. And Elastos, still have not gotten to look into Elastos. I know it's going to make you guys crazy, but really been burnt on looking at a lot of crypto projects. But I'm not going to sleep on it. I'll check into it eventually. But yeah, Neo and Ontology, really interesting kind of framework of what they're building. The whole Neo ecosystem is quite interesting. But let's go here through the chat. But Biplav asked, did you buy gold? I have not bought gold yet. I'm hoping to get some soon. We just did a recording for a podcast we'll have up soon. It's not up yet, with Mike Maloney, and I promised to him, I was like, Mike, I'm going to buy my gold from you. But I did get my first gold, actually. I've got a little gold coin, I've got a little one. It's not much. It's like I think it's like 50 or $100 worth of gold, but it's a little gold coin that I got actually from one of Peter Schiff's employees. He's a really nice guy named Jonathan who gave me my first gold. He's like, Nick, I heard you wanted gold. I had to give you your first piece. So I was very thankful for that. How many lows could Rob Lowe rob if Rob Lowe could rob lows? Sorry, you guys. Alrighty. Let's see here. We'll go ahead and I'll go through 2 more messages here, and then we'll dive back into the chat. If the connection's holding up well, guys, let me check here real quick. It looks like we're coming in through clear. If we keep on going through clear, I might open up Discord and we can open up the chat for you guys if you guys want to come on to the live stream. Gustavo said, Nick, you talk about a rise of uranium price, but we need to think that we already have enough nuclear bombs to destroy twice the globe, and also we probably will not use it to make energy anymore. Well, Gustavo, it's a good. Well, to your first point, I don't really think that uranium is in demand for nuclear bombs. There's been a disarmament over the past few years. That would only increase if geopolitical tensions continue to rise. And again, as much as the media sensationalizes things, the world is very interconnected. I'd say the first point. And I don't think there's going to be a demand, so I'm not arguing for that. And the reason that's not going to rise most likely is because the world's very intermingled. We have investments everywhere. We do trade together. I don't see that really happening. So that's not really my argument for uranium. To the second point, though, of using it for energy, I think we are, whether or not it's going to be the massive new mainstream use of energy, I don't know if that's the case just yet. In the case of uranium, there is reactors turning back on in Japan. And along with it as well, uranium has had a lot of shutdown on production. It's more of a cut on the supply side. And the thing about uranium, much like oil and other commodities, is that operations to mine uranium take time to formulate. And when they are shut offline, they don't go back on for a very, very long time. It's an industry where you have, again, larger booms and busts in a case in the sense of price. And that's why out of most commodities back in 2008, or in the commodities boom in the 2000s, it had a massive rally during, I think, 2005, 2006, or sorry, I think it went all the way to 2007. But yeah, that's the reason why uranium's like that. It's not something they can just prop up overnight. So you get actually, I think, a lot more of the increase in production probably on the way down in uranium, so long as their margins are good enough. And in this case, we're at rock bottom in uranium prices because Kazatomprom has cut, I think it was nearly like 14% of production in total. You had the largest uranium mine that Cameco ran, shut down, based up in Canada. So you've got a lot of cuts to supply, but the demand is still relatively stagnant, if not growing, with some of the reactors in Japan coming online, some of the new reactors being built. And I got to tell you, I have a belief, and this is something that's much more long-term, that going into the 2020s, that you're going to see China and a lot of industrializing economies have to adopt nuclear energy. The benefits, especially with the increase in security and technology, are going to far outweigh that of other different types of energy. With the coal and natural gas, the coal and oil consumption in China is too much in this case, and I think it's going to be both for the betterment of China and other nations, both for economic reasons, but also for environmental reasons as well. Nuclear is a very safe type of energy. Let's see here. Oh, that's interesting. So they recently, someone said that Trump signed a bill early October to unleash nuclear research at universities. That's interesting. I want to look into that. Kendrick, glad you could come on to the live session. Thank you very much. We got 2 donations here. Sorry, guys, I get caught in a ramble and I don't get to talk about the donations. Yes. Zuek, I hope I pronounced that right. Donated $5. Thank you very much. Nick, I've heard Linda from ITM Trading says that the CIA invented crypto in the 90s and she's against it. Opinion. Oh, I think you're talking about Lynette Zhang from ITM Trading. And I watch her from time to time. I think she has some really great data points. And I watched the video that you're referring to. The reason I'm going to disagree with that is that she found some documents that showcased really more than anything implementation of cryptography and the ideas behind digital cash. But the thing is, in the CIA documents, they talk nothing about what's in the Bitcoin white paper, really what was the Nakamoto consensus or proof of work. Now, what you think of proof of work or not, the fact of the matter is, towards that claim, there's little to nothing that actually really backs that up. And I remember she also found some, ICO that was raising. It was supposed to be digitizing everything, like 100 different ICOs claim they're going to do. And really, I think she just kind of built up a little bit of a narrative in the story. Nonetheless, I still love Lynette. I've watched her content before, and I'm hoping we can do something. I want to have her on the podcast or go on her show sometime. which is a really, really good content creator. I think one of the more legitimate people in the gold bug space. But I don't know really enough to speak on kind of her past and stuff. I've just kind of watched her content. Andrew UK donated. Great channel. Please do a video on mesh technologies. I'll try to look into it, Andrew. I appreciate the donation. Chris Parada, how did you get your name Data Dash? Good question. Data Dash was actually an unintentional. It's a living proof that this was not meant to be a crypto channel. It was actually meant to be a data analytics channel. If you guys want to ever learn a very valuable skill, SQL or SQL, you guys can learn about how to code SQL by the tutorial I made on my channel. It's all free. It's not an Udemy course. I'm not selling anything to you guys, but it was the original reason I created this channel, and I was going to be focused around data analytics. And I just happened to create 2 videos talking about what was going on in crypto markets to show off my data analytics skills and charting on the price of Bitcoin and a few other cryptos. And what do you know? We grew the largest cryptocurrency channel in the world because I never would have guessed people want to hear me ramble on about finance. Apparently you guys do. I don't know why you crazy people, you're listening to me. No, I'm just kidding. But I appreciate it, guys. I'm glad you like my content. And again, it's always a good reminder that sometimes things that are unintentional turn out to be very life-changing things. So I'm very thankful for that. Rob Fiddler said, Nick, thank you for the content as ever. Definitely one of the best in the space. Thank you for keeping it real. Thank you, Rob. I appreciate it. He said, about time for some of your impressions. I'm thinking he said impersonations. Again, I reckon very, very amusing. We'll fit some possibly into the stream later tonight. Let's see here. I got to catch up on the chat a little bit. Gabriel, I don't buy direct uranium. I would buy uranium mining stocks for me personally, but there's a few different ways. I did a video on how to trade commodities, and that'll give you a good explanation on things. Not so much on the exchanges, but... Chanel Pash, ever heard of Electrify Asia? First peer-to-peer energy trading over the main grid. Alpha test completed and have an investment from TEPCO. Chanel, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. I'm sorry if I'm not. Thank you for the donation. And yes, I have. I met some of the guys for Electrify Asia back when I was in Melbourne in Australia. Really nice team. Seems like they're doing something quite ambitious. Very close to Power Ledger from what I could assess, but nonetheless, I mean, there could be a future for it, I think, in energy trading. But it's just not my ballpark, and I haven't caught up with it recently, so I can't speak too much on it. Juan from Argentina said, greetings from Argentina. Don't invest in Argentina just yet. The crisis will get worse. What do you think about Substratum, the latest news for Substratum about making another ICO for AMP? Juan, I think Amplify is fine. Amplify as a project looks really interesting to me. Again, they're kind of building something separate. They're building an exchange. And you need a lot of funding for exchanges. I think a lot of people think, oh, they're just going off and abandoning and running a new ICO. No, they're getting a whole new separate team to do Amplify. Justin just kind of is tying that with the Substratum ecosystem, plus providing a lot of benefits to sub-token holders. It's not that easy to launch an exchange, guys. It's why exchanges raise a lot of capital. The reason people are giving exchanges a lot of capital is because people want to get the infrastructure plays in crypto. They see that this is going to be much bigger in the long term, and they want to make sure they can guarantee a position. And the thing is that exchanges need a lot of money because of one thing and one thing only: legal expenses. It is very, very expensive to become a registered securities exchange. And that's what Amplify wants to be. They want to be able to list as much tokens as possible. And that's what most exchanges are doing right now. Some of them are awash with capital because they have a ton of trading fees coming through and listing fees. New exchanges don't have that. They need to raise capital. So hopefully that explains it. I don't think it's really bad. Let's see here. Catching up here on the chat. Sublime, are you planning to buy an expensive crypto car? No, I would love to buy, it's interesting that you mentioned Superman in the comment. I'm hoping, I do hope to get a Tesla one day. That's like my one toy I want to get. Trust me, guys, I'm driving the same beat up car I've always had and living in the same house. You see, I'm not living in luxury by any means. I'm just a YouTuber, but nonetheless, that is one thing. I've followed Tesla for years. I think a lot of people have recently gotten onto the Tesla trend, but I had a prediction 5 years ago that Tesla was going to be a household name in the U.S. in the next decade, and it's already starting to become a reality where I live. Not everywhere, but definitely where I live at the moment. They've popped up a few new shops. Let's see here. But yeah, hopefully one day, but I'm not a big spender of my money. I like to save. Let's see here. Matt Wake, thank you for being an early subscriber. I appreciate it. Richard, crypto will be anti-establishment if it sticks to its principles, and more than anything takes away control from central bankers. And I think it's the loudest speech you can have, taking away the control of banks having control over your money. Lemuel, thank you very much for the donation. Any thoughts on the privacy coin Loki? Is a hybrid proof of work, proof of stake masternode system that adds a second layer on top of the primary privacy layer. Their mixnet, private VPN, and private snaps secure node app looks good. Lemuel, I'd seen Loki before. I didn't know much about it. I have a lot of guys who look at small cap projects in the crypto space, but I'll have to give it a check. I appreciate not only the donation, but the recommendation as well. I'll see if I can get my pen or pencil here. Looks like I don't have it on my desk, but nonetheless, I will definitely check into Loki and everything later on. Appreciate, again, the donation and the interesting recommendation. Wouters, that's an interesting name. Donated, thank you very much. Thoughts on Bitcoin short positions this week? I really wouldn't be, just like how I've been saying for the past few months, Wouter, that Bitcoin at this point, there is still a large short position, so we'll take a look at in a second. Last time I checked it, it's still quite large in like the 300,000 range on Bitfinex. So long as we are in this segment here from 8 to 6,000, I wouldn't be going short on Bitcoin. I would not be trading any margin. That's just me personally. But again, you got to decide that for yourself. Going on to like the short positions, for example, you can still see, oh, wow, actually shorts have made a dramatic drop recently. That's interesting. I hadn't checked it in about 2 or 3 days. I was still around this range, or not 2 or 3 days, I'd say a little bit longer, because I remember watching it here in the 200 and thinking that we get a bounce in shorts. But man, that's interesting. We've actually gone back down to September levels and what we've seen back in July. Very, very fascinating. So it looks like the bulls might be getting a little bit more confident with the recent uptick in price. Yep, we can see longs have gone up a little bit. Might start to see a little bit of a trend reversal here. We've been going downward as a recent since back in April, since the falter of the supposed next altcoin run up. But very, very interesting. I like this. I'm going to keep an eye on the longs and short positions. I think more than anything, you got a better chance. We got a down day today, but if this holds one more time on the support line, guys, I think you're going to get a little bit of FOMO. I mean, we've been making higher lows every time here since back in July. Very important thing to recognize. Danielle, thank you very much. I'm glad you're interested in the channel. Thank you for the hearts. Got all the love back to you as well. Let's see here, guys. I see we've got a donation from Rob. Thank you very much, Rob. Nick, love your content. I just have to know what your thoughts are on banana. Banana. We all know you love Nano, but have you made your memes dreams? That's funny, Rob. I actually I think someone sent me it was my brother, I think, sent me a meme of it's basically, for those who don't know, I'll clarify first. Thank you, Rob. I appreciate you bringing up a Nano. I'm a big fan of Nano, but there is a meme coin that pretty much forked off or was created by the community called Banano, and it's basically a meme currency. But I looked online. It's an actual thing. It's valued at around, like, I think $1 million to $2 million on CoinGecko. And there was a meme that came out the other day where it was Wolf of Wall Street when he was pitching penny stocks to people, and he's got him on the line, and he's like, I've got the best dang investment that you could get into right now. It's called Banana. Like, and he's like explaining it to him and doing the same sell. And everyone's like looking at him like, how the hell is he selling this? Like, he's selling it like crazy to this guy. And the guy, like, you know, talks about, I can't remember all the details, but he like basically is like selling this guy on buying a ton of Banana. But it's funny. I love how the crypto community comes up with memes. Some of the juiciest memes I've ever seen have come from the crypto community. Alrighty. Chan Yi, my thoughts on oil prices. Interestingly enough, oil. We know we talk about commodities, but we don't really talk about oil much on the channel. I was saying that this is quite overdue because you had a rounding set of highs here, as well as lows. You actually can really almost see a trend here in regards to the lows. And again, it's kind of rough. I would have a curved line of momentum, but just keeping it simple. You can see a channel building up here, and when you really broke out of that channel, as well as with the 200-day. That sets pretty big precedents for the bearish price action. But yeah, I was trading oil mostly back, or not so much oil, but oil stocks back here during the crazy plunder in oil prices. Ryan Jones, Nick, know about Argo by Blocko. They deployed enterprise systems for Hyundai, Samsung, Lotta Card, and raised 29 million out of 33 million private sales. Yeah, Ryan, I was following Argo earlier on. I remember when it was spelled ARGO, and then they changed it to AERGO. Was a big fan of the project early on, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think a lot of these ICOs launched at a bad time in the sense of the market. That's why a lot of them haven't launched their tokens just yet. But I like how they're doing some airdrops. That's good to see. I think the airdrop model is going to be essential for the future. But again, I think a lot of these ICOs are going to have to compete with one another. We need to get some more fundamental development before I really get excited about it. Nonetheless, they are a potential competitor with Icon, so keep an eye on that. Jazzer, thank you very much. Appreciate that. Let's see here. Tim Stanford. Hey, Nick, how high is the probability that Tether was the catalyst for last year's bull run? It played a role, but it was not the catalyst. I'd say that. When we talk about a catalyst, it's the big thing that really draws a major uptrend. And I think for that, Tim, it was really just the awakening of cryptocurrencies, the momentum picking up in Bitcoin's price, and the speculative nature that came with that, and not to mention ICOs. ICOs played a big role in last year's run-up. But nonetheless, I think there's been some decent evidence that Tether played a role as well. Ryan, I've not bought OTC yet. I'll let you know if I do an OTC trade. In fact, I'll walk you guys possibly through it and stuff. But I know a lot of people in the OTC space, very genuine people. I know the guys over at Caleb and Brown. I know some of the head guys at the largest crypto OTC, one of the largest crypto OTC trading desks, DRW Cumberland. Fantastic guys, really trying to do it proper in the crypto business, which is really nice. Let's see here. Catching up a little bit on chat. Oh, Daniel Patton, thank you very much for the donation. Hey, Nick, been following your channel for a year now. Thanks for teaching us about trading. I'm getting out of debt. Once I'm out, 1 Bitcoin is coming your way. Or on slow days, could you do more trading videos? Well, Daniel, I'm hoping to pronounce that right. I'm sorry if it's Daniel. I'm terrible at English. I think it's Daniel. Here's the thing, Daniel. I'm first off very glad to hear that you're getting out of debt. Do that first. That is the #1 step in finance. Do not be a victim to the creditors and the debtors. Or, well, I don't know what the proper term would be. I'm assuming the creditors, the banks. Make sure to get out of that debt, man. Focus on yourself first. Glad to hear that you're doing that. Thank you for the donation. But definitely from now on, don't donate anymore to me. Go focus on paying that off. I want to make sure there's no people in this world who are entrenched in debt. It's a terrible thing. I've known some personal people who've gone through it. And I appreciate that you offered to donate a Bitcoin. I appreciate that. That would pretty much go to funding Project Genesis, which I'm working on right now. And we will have more information on in the next coming months, guys. I got to keep quiet on it for now. But yeah, we'll hopefully be doing some more trading videos in the future. I'll be doing a little bit more trading tips in the coming, hopefully in the coming weeks or so. Let's see here. Just want to make sure connection's still good. Matt Wick, thank you very much, Matt. Matt is from Canada. Top 3 coins for November. In my video, I recommended Bitcoin Cash, QuarkChain, and BNB. 2 have already pumped. Please check my channel at some point, Nick. Sama. Well, thank you very much, Matt. I appreciate it. You know, I don't really have any altcoins that I'm too focused in right now. I'll let you all know what I'm currently trading. Hot BTC is really what I've been focusing in on right now. I think the wedge building up here is quite nice. I like to see that there's support along a line of previous resistance, a rising line of previous resistance, and seeing that become support. So long as it holds 15 and above, I'm really going to like this potentially to continue moving higher. Again, it's just me at the moment. It's just one of my trades. But outside of that, I don't really have any specific coins that I'm watching. Really don't pick coins that have already jumped up in this market. Look for other projects that you think large investors would want to pick up. That are currently at a dip and they want to get enough to where they have a sizable position, because that's the reason why you're seeing all these rebounds, guys. There's not an excess of volume. You have a few market makers trading this market, knocking price up and down, and then you have some big whales coming in buying large positions in altcoins that are buying sizable amounts that really move price higher. So that's one thing I'd say to keep an eye on is just see the ones that haven't really made a rebound yet that are setting up nice technical patterns. Oh, JG, I see you're interested in tax questions. I'm probably not justified to answer those for you. You have to probably talk to an accountant for that. And there's a lot of crypto tax accountants out there. But I could try to the best of my ability. Again, it's not in any way financial advice or anything like that. But I'm just not very qualified. Lemuel, no problem. I'll definitely try to check into it later tonight. Tony, Data Dash coin just spiked 47%. JDub, well, we've got holochain on the chart. I like holochain. I'm very interested in the agent-centric approach of a lot of these distributed ledger, like a lot of projects that are still focusing on the kind of distributed ledger aspect of what was originally just seen as blockchain. Now we've got a whole new set of different systems, and the agent-centric approach seems much more reasonable for distributed applications, in my opinion. But it's more of just a trade than anything, but there has been a really big community building around holochain from what I've seen. Timo J, for learning about it, trading and investing, all the resources are online in books and in documentaries. I can't express it enough. There's no need to go to school, in my opinion, for business, for finance, unless you're really, really trying to, if you prefer that kind of structure and learning things that you feel like you can't learn online, and maybe, but yeah, there's a lot of great resources out there. I'd have a hard time naming all of them for you, but there's my trading series, which is good to learn about basics of trading, especially for crypto. And you can follow a lot of great people on YouTube that do trading and stuff, but follow those that have a good track record and don't, there's a lot of free stuff out there. You don't really need to pay for some crazy course. D, thank you very much for your donation. Do you like Ethereum Classic? I don't see so much a future for Ethereum Classic. When I read the headlines, again, not arguing on a moral level which one's the real Ethereum. When I see the headlines going about, it's the same reason why I don't see a future for Bitcoin Cash. I might like some of the things that Bitcoin Cash stands for, whether I'm a big fan of bigger blocks or smaller blocks. It's kind of arbitrary. I don't think Bitcoin Cash will be able to last because I think any forked currency is not going to succeed long term, whether it functions better as a currency or not. Mr. Stickdoll, thank you very much. Appreciate that. But yeah, to your answer, D, I don't really see much of a future for Ethereum Classic. Only really potential trades on exchange listings, and that's already happened with Coinbase. So I think it's kind of ran that train. Snownuts asked, why is the hot BTC chart very stagnant? It's because these are it has a very high supply, and these are Satoshi markings. So it can really only Satoshis can only divide really into a certain amount of decimal places, and in this case we're down to the bare bones with these double digits, so that's why it's very static in this case. People like low sat coins. I'm not really trading it for that. I like the concept, but also as well I like the wedge that it's forming. Hopefully it'll be able to hold it and pick up some momentum with the overall market. Super Fuds man. Good morning, Vietnam. The education system is done. YouTube is where it's at. Robert, I don't mean to sound like a generic, like, because I have dropped out. I did drop out of university. Yeah, YouTube is a great tool. It's taught me pretty much a lot of what I know. Pretty much most of what I know. Kent, thank you very much. What do you think about Herc? Love your training videos. HERC. I do not know what that is. Let me take a look into it real quick. I'm assuming this is a coin of some sort. Decentralized supply chain management. I will have to look into this. I don't know about this one personally, Ken. I apologize, but I will definitely try to do my research on it. Appreciate not only the donation, but the recommendation. You guys have, I always mention some of the best projects I found, and oh, here I go again, shilling. Substratum, for example. Substratum I found very early on during the pre-sale at 3 cents a token, and went all the way up to $3 during the peak in December. 100 times over return. There was a lot of ICOs like that. And I believe there's a lot of valuable projects that'll still hopefully come over the next few months. So might be one of those. I'll have to look into it. Appreciate the recommendation, Ken. Always love getting recommendations from you guys. All right, we'll answer a few more questions here, and then we might actually open up the Discord, seeing as the connection's doing well. Superfuds said, I'm getting tired of the P&D crypto world, the pump and dump crypto world. Yeah. Nancy, where I can tell you, it's expected with how low volume this market is. I keep on trying to replace the text, and it does that. But anyways, yeah, I mean, what's nice is that it's quite predictable, but at the same time, you know, it's kind of expected more than anything because we're in a low volume market. It's going to be that way for a while until we get some people trading in crypto. Alrighty. Thoughts on IOTX? I don't know much about IOTX. I'm sorry, I can't talk on that personally, Tan. But I think I did one trade on IOTX a little bit, a little while ago. I'll definitely check into it though. Julio said Bitcoin. Ben says Ethereum Classic is going to be big. I don't want to derail him on that. I just believe unless they come out with some amazing technology and they have the thing about it, Ethereum Classic is going up against the Ethereum team, which again, whether or not you like the rollback on the chain, which is really the separation between the two, you've got a massive team of developers contributing to Ethereum, and even they are having a hard time keeping up with, you know, Casper and a lot of the updates to the Ethereum network. Things are definitely kind of behind schedule in that case. So I don't know. I'd have to check in why he's bullish on it, but don't want to derail his beliefs. Blockchain LLC backed equals Ethereum Classic will be big. Julio, I didn't know that. That's interesting. So they've got Blockchain LLC backing it. I don't know who Blockchain LLC is and what that company does, but I'll have to look into it. To-do. Nick, thank you for sharing all your knowledge with us through your channel. Have you heard Anthony Papagliano's Off the Chain podcast with Murad Mahmudov? You guys know I'm bad with names. Your thoughts if you have. To do it, I have not. I do like Papagliano's always on Twitter. The virus is spreading. I'm just kidding. But I've heard his Off the Chain podcast is really good in general. And I think I heard one or two other people recommend this podcast. So I will definitely set a reminder to look into that and check into it. So I appreciate it to do. Really, really appreciate it. I love podcasts when I get the chance to listen to them. Let's see here. Sorry, guys. It was the chat wasn't coming in with new questions here for a second. Sometimes get a little delay. Yeah, actually, I gotta say, I was a little bit surprised by this. He said, "Hi Nick, China uplifts the ban on Bitcoin, but no movement in price. Seems like no news is affecting any price action. Is crypto dead?" Actually, it's more about getting the exchanges back really online in China, and again, trying to get more people involved in the market and using crypto as currency. Outside of that, people I think are really dependent on Western markets like the US and Europe to start really trading financial based products with Bitcoin. That's where you're really going to see the price gains. Outside of that, you need people to actually start using crypto as currency. Well, Julio, for your point here, Bobby Lee and Charlie Lee are brothers, actually. So you said Tom Lee as well. Tom Lee is not brothers with Charlie Lee and Bobby Lee. Lee's a pretty common last name, but yes, Charlie Lee and Bobby Lee are actually related from what I know. Let's see here. All right, I think I might take a small break from answering questions here. I forget to get water, as always, because look at this. I can't do my podcast, or like not podcast. I can't do my live stream without water. But yeah, yeah. But I want to spend some time now that we've kind of gone through some key things as we talked about earlier, to see if we can open up the Discord here and get some discussion going. So if you guys want to hop into the Discord, I'll go ahead and drop the link here. You guys can type in !Discord and get a link into the Discord and join in. We'd always love to have you. And I'll have you guys on into the personal chat room where we can go about answering some questions over voice chat. Definitely come in with some interesting, not so much specifically coin projects. We'd like to really kind of, answer some big questions and get to talk to you guys a little bit. So if you guys can, !Discord, feel free to join in the general chat. Let's see if this messes up the connection as well, guys. Let me know. I'm actually gonna yeah, I'm gonna close out of Discord for now, guys. I apologize for that. The reason I'm gonna do that is because I'm noticing it's messing up the connection. It was downloading an update, so I'm gonna hop back and just actually doing the stream. I'm sorry, I don't know why it has a required download. I was just using it a few hours ago, but that's technology, always updating, always getting smarter. But anyways, so we'll go back. Ben Dixon, Nick, have you bought any URA yet? I have still not. I am waiting for a break on the trend here, the resistance line. And I think it looks like, until we really get a pullback in equities, even though this is an equity-based ETF for uranium companies that deal in the uranium sector one way or another, I think you got to get this into 2019 down here. Get it real tight within the triangle and have a breakout. I think that's what you're going to probably see. Something a little more smooth that takes time. And this has been a multi-year. There we go. Finally, the chart loaded. I mean, guys, if you take a look at this is the monthly chart. This has been a multi-year bottom in the URA ETF with the uranium spot price as well flattening out. So I'd be excited. Again, guys, commodities, it's not something that's going to happen overnight. It did have a nice rally here with the rebound in equities over the past week. But, anytime this comes down here, guys, it's almost like it's almost like a guaranteed trade. At least over the past 2 years, it's been a opportunity to make money. You got to decide for yourself if that's something you guys want to do. But glad to see all you guys join the Discord. Wow, awesome stuff. Yeah, so let me know, is the connection back online? Is everything good? I'm sorry if that messed up things for a few of you. Julio said F at connection. Press F to pay respects. Let's see here. Jimmy Rosert said, don't you feel ashamed trading uranium? Nuclear power equals death. Jimmy, that's very interesting you said that. And, I'm not here to, in a sense, be rude by any means. But I'm going to have to tell you that's not true. And I'll explain why. If you go out and actually look at the numbers, yes, there's, for example, I've studied extensively into the events of Chernobyl and Fukushima and Japan and everything with the recent the nuclear issues in Japan. But I will tell you that historically speaking, if we actually look at the data and the numbers, uranium actually causes less deaths than even some of the other forms of renewable energy like wind energy as well as solar. If you actually look at the numbers and the facts on death tolls and people harmed by these different types of energy, we'll realize that coal and oil are some of the highest leading in regards to deaths. People invest in those on a daily basis. People trade oil futures all the time. I'm not trying to, weigh one negative with another, but, if we're assessing our options in this case, uranium's actually quite good. Now, if you tie it to nuclear bombs haven't really been used on a nation since the 1940s, and they've only been in tests, during the mid-1900s, and we've been seeing a disarmament of nuclear weapons over the past few years. So hopefully that answers your question a little bit as to why I'm fine trading uranium. Nuclear energy, if we were to see mass usage of nuclear energy and we had the right safety practices and we didn't build nuclear reactors on a fault line like some of them have been built on, we would see a mass reduction in CO2. People wouldn't be dying from all the smog in China. It would be really awesome. It's almost a net zero emission form of energy. It's just produces you use it to generate steam to turn a turbine, and it produces very clean energy. And then you just have to properly store the radioactive waste once you're done. So it's very, very interesting. I recommend you look into it. I don't know if you agree with me, but recommend you check into it and look at some of the numbers, because I used to have the same perspective. After learning about Chernobyl, I was absolutely terrified of nuclear energy and uranium in general. But definitely look into that. I hope that helps. Well, Ben, I'm glad that helps you. I'm glad. Thank you very much. Deku, no, uranium as a commodity has not hit an all-time high since, I think, 2007. If we look up Cameco, uranium, let's go ahead here. Uranium price. And we actually just had a bottom back here in 2016, but here's the actual price here. Peak was back in June 1st of 2007, and we've been on a downtrend ever since. So, it looks like that trend, and I want to make sure the trend right here might be starting to bottom and reverse. Who knows? This is, again, one of those things where when you have a year or two where markets have remained flat, that's when you can get interested in a potential bottom. Marl, I didn't know. OneUp they will show you the donations up on the screen that are crypto. Interesting. Marl, I'll have to take a look into that. I'd love to do that, because I hate how, I want you guys to definitely, if you can donate in crypto to help kind of support the payments market for crypto. But at the same time, that it wouldn't show up on the donations and stuff, and people wouldn't get their questions answered. So I'll definitely try and see if I can look into that. OneUp. Cool. Thank you for the recommendation, Marl. Zach, that's awesome. Already a 20% trade on uranium. That is really nice. Good job, man. Let's see here. Gene says, hi, Nick. Mistakes were made, and I got liquidated pretty bad during this bear market. Should I just keep hodling? Gene, I'd say the one thing that I'd recommend is, I can't recommend anything officially. But I will tell you from my personal experience, I stay away from leverage trading, period. It's something that is there if you know how to use leverage properly and at the right times. Sometimes to hedge your other positions, and sometimes as well when you have full clear confidence that the market is going to be in a longer term uptrend or downtrend. And it's just not good to use. So, I mean, I think you already kind of realized that, but now I don't mean to kind of rub it in. Just saying, don't continue to make that same mistake. Don't enter into the gambling house and play with higher levels of margin. That's exactly what what BitMEX and all the other exchanges, I was trying to think of his name right now, what all of them pretty much want you to do. They make money both ways. The best thing I could say to do is to focus on the variety of markets that we talk about and assess which ones you like and what plays you find to be very interesting in them, whether it be stocks, whether it be crypto, whether it be commodities, whatever it may be. Assess the situation and realize what options you have. And from there, I think you can make a good decision and stuff. You know, if you believe crypto is about to make a run up, check into some of the altcoins out there. If you believe that stocks still aren't too overvalued, or maybe the things going on in equity markets are going to keep stocks going, definitely check into you know, some of the ones that have taken a nice dip on this correction that are good companies you like, and maybe take a look at the commodities market as well, which is really where a lot of my focus is going to be alongside crypto. CW, I appreciate the donation. Someone brought this up earlier. I don't want to talk about Argo too much because we've gotten about 3 donations already talking about it. But that's cool to see Telco, so we'll be a block producer. That's interesting. And there's a lot of corporations slowly getting involved. I mean, they have a large corporate presence in South Korea. So Roger Power said, Nick, your update back around October 5th regarding the S&P 500 stock buybacks was spot on. Thank you, Roger. I appreciate that. I felt I was pretty accurate on that. That being said, what do you think going forward? Are the equity markets oversold? Yeah, if the stock buybacks continue on to $1 trillion from the $800 billion we've had this year, that's another few $100 billion in stock buybacks. If it keeps going through, I know Apple's got plenty of capital to just keep injecting into stock. So Apple's like a guaranteed and run up if they keep propping up the stock, But I would say that in regards to equity markets, it's a matter of when the stock buybacks dry out and when borrowing capital becomes too expensive and when the underlying economy gets hit too hard by rising interest rates. That's what I'm concerned about. Guys, I'm sorry as well if there's been some connection issues. Definitely let me know in the chat if there is. Ambot said, thank you for all the financial advice. I'm getting a bank loan and going all in on banana. Zach says, if the S&P 500 crashes 40%, what's the harm in going 2 times leverage long? Market has never corrected much more than 50% since the Great Depression. Low chance of liquidation. Zach, that's where I wouldn't be too afraid of using leverage personally. I use leverage when I have situations that have reached extremes. So, for example, when I can see that something has reached a crazy extreme, and then I see that a trend reversal might be coming in where we've got a rebound. If I see, for example, what people would describe, pretend this is a price here, the price of a chart here, for example. If I see a falling knife and I start to see a rebound and I see a higher low, that's when I would be fine maybe playing in with a little bit of leverage. And the same goes in for rallies, and you make a higher low, a lower high, my apologies, then that's where I feel comfortable doing margin positions personally. That's how I would only really trade with margin outside of long-term positions with very low levels. And that goes for stocks, that goes for crypto. That's just how I kind of can consider using leverage. Alrighty, guys. We're well into an hour of the live stream here. We'll go ahead and answer a few more questions here. Probably stop around 7:15. Hi, Nick. Could you give any updates on Unibright? It seems like an amazing project. Yes, Eddie. Just about a week ago, I had a sit down. I think it was maybe about a week ago or a little bit over a week ago. I had a sit down call with Stefan from the team, and Stefan. I'm tripping up on the name right now. I've been talking so much on the live stream. Martin from Unibright. Yeah, we had a really good call. Martin and the rest of the team is doing really well with the project. It's interesting. We've been talking about kind of the token model. We've been talking about getting real clients, real adoption. What's nice about Unibright is that it benefits from actual real adoption, unlike a lot of tokens that their value really comes from speculation. I like that about Unibright. And there's been definitely a lot of amazing developments going on. It's really all I can say for now. Nonetheless, though, guys, if you're curious about what I think about Unibright, I'm still holding my tokens on the project. I love Unibright. It's a cool project. It's one of the few kind of close to utility token projects that I like outside of Substratum. There's not too many that I really believe in, but unless you have a really good model for your token, there's not many general cryptocurrencies outside of cryptocurrencies, the ones that are aiming to be money, that I'm really optimistic on. But yeah, I'll admit that we've kind of slowed down a little bit with our work together. They've been doing a killer job at continuing to expand, but I kind of helped them in the first few months with helping to shape out their branding, building out their community, things like that. But I still keep in touch with them because, again, one of the best projects in the space at the moment. Alrighty, let's go ahead and do 2 more questions here. Eddie, I'm glad I could answer that for you. Andres, I'm glad someone asked about this. Thoughts on the Federal Reserve rate changing later next year? So I am interested at the Fed's kind of plan to raise rates over the next year. I know there's been a lot of, I think today they had the decision on the December rate hike. I don't know if that, I'm curious actually if that was unchanged. I got to check into that here in a minute. But yeah, I'd say that in 2019, it's going to make it a very difficult climb. And if you have rates anywhere between 2 to 3% on the Fed funds rate, man, I can tell you, you're at least going to get a slight correction in markets. And if it's sharp enough, they raise rates too aggressively, you are going to have a sharp decline in the markets, at least in U.S. equities. And along with that as well, I think a general longer-term slowdown because the Fed they'll be able to lower rates down back to zero, but it's not going to have the same stimulatory effect. And if there's enough fear building up, enough sell-side action, and enough devaluation in the currency itself, you're going to have a longer-term downtrend. I think it's similar to what Ray DeLeo's talked about, the kind of long grind, and this is going to be mixed in with the emerging markets. There's not really going to be a safe haven. So if they keep raising rates like they do, it's kind of inevitable. They got to do it at one point or another. And it seems like the Fed's taking upon this opportunity where the economy is, kind of taking signals of strength from where it was back, say, 2 or 3 years ago, where equities were on edge. So I think they feel like they've got some room to do it. Seth, thank you very much for the donation, Seth. Have you looked into the Deep Brain Chain project? And if so, what are your thoughts? It seems to be a real hidden gem that just isn't getting its proper acknowledgement. Seth, I'll have to look into. I met someone actually from the Deep Brain Chain when I was back in Thailand. Actually, very sweet girl who worked at the project. But I'm curious about the size of the market that Deep Brain Chain could tackle. I think it's a multi-billion-dollar market that they could tackle, but I'm curious how much they can capture of that. But nonetheless, it was an interesting concept. I remember looking into it. Both Deep Brain Chain and Singularity Net, as Richard brought up here in the chat. I checked into those a little early on. Alrighty, we'll do one last good question here. Robert Miller, well, this isn't much of a question. Nick, you're the new Ray DeLeo. By the way, you should get him on the show. Shouldn't be too hard. Well, Robert, I really appreciate that because a lot of people might not realize just how much of a compliment that is. I've wanted to have Ray on the podcast for a while. I'd love him to give him some literal airtime to just shill his books because I think the one he recently did on big debt crises and just what he has to say is so valuable, and the way that he and him and his company make decisions. If you watch the TED Talk where he talks about that, it's just absolutely fascinating. He's one of my favorite guys in finance, and it's cool to see someone so not only well respected but so high up on the scale of net worth be so honest and transparent. You don't get a lot of people like that in finance. I think you get that with the Icon, for example, is one of those guys who will just kind of tell it like it is and try to get his point across. And I think Ray DeLeo is one of the other few exceptions like that who really do that. So big fan of him personally. Would love to get him on. I don't really have a way to contact him, but we're going to try our best, hopefully, to get him on. Yes, he is a legend. He is an absolute legend. Not even trying to kiss up to him. He's a really smart guy. Has a decent understanding of economic cycles, which I can tell you a lot of people in finance still don't really understand. You need to debate Rubini. Yeah, I wouldn't so much debate Rubini, because the thing is, I think you don't win anyone over like Rubini if you go at him with a debate. And I don't really want to debate him in that sense, because I think he makes a few fair points, but I think he's getting stuck in the same argument. And I think this will actually be a good segment to end off on, guys, for the live stream here. I'm going to go on a rant. There are people like Nouriel Roubini who I think are respectable economists. They've made some great calls, some bad calls, but they have a respectable history behind them, and we need to understand that. We can't just look at Roubini because, oh, he's been railing on crypto. I have a lot of respect for him for his past, as I do with a lot of individuals I disagree with on things. But the thing about Nouriel that I feel he's missing, and I would reach across the aisle and say, Nouriel, this is my point of view, I hope you will find some value in it, is that I feel he's missing out. He's missing out on the real potential of cryptocurrencies, on what they really are and what they're going to become over the next 5 or 10 years. And he's kind of stuck in the current kind of echelon of what crypto and blockchain is. Oh, it's not scalable. There's a lot of hypocrisy. It speaks about decentralization and privacy, yet the ledger's transparent, and along with that as well, everyone's using centralized exchanges, so now we're back to the old system. The same arguments, and again, there's how there's manipulation, there's criminals, and yada. You could find all the things to criticize crypto for, and a lot of them you'd actually be justified for. The problem is it's just like the internet was back during the 2000s and really the 90s. The internet had a very speculative nature to it. We had the dot-com bubble, very similar means as to what we saw with crypto in 2017. And the problem that people have is they live too much in the present. They look at the inefficiencies. Very similar people like Paul Krugman, who's, again, a respected economist in a lot of people's eyes. I'm 50-50 on Paul Krugman, but the fact of the matter is you have people like that where you can go back and find claims of them back during the 2000s saying the internet's never going to be a thing. Like, again, they're living in the time where they're talking about their fax machines, they're talking about all the inefficient hardware and software and how it's just not there. And because it's not there now, it's never going to be a thing. And look where the internet is now. I'm now able to transmit my voice to you guys and even talk about crypto because the internet became something much more than I think we could have ever dreamed it became. And that's why stocks are past their .com levels. That's why Google, Facebook, Apple, all these hardware and software tech companies are some of the most profitable companies in the United States. They're making more than energy companies. I mean, it's absolutely baffling. So the thing I'd say about Roubini is that I'd love to have him on. I'd love to have him on a podcast. I wouldn't so much call it a debate. I'd call it a discussion. And let's see if we can reach across the island and hear each other's points of view. I think he brings up some good criticisms. There's a lot of issues crypto is going to face over the next 5 to 10 years if it really wants to be what I think the real people of crypto believe it can be. It's not just some speculative asset class. It's going to become a currency class. And if it wants to become that, it needs to be scalable. It needs to be highly secure. And there needs to be the proper technological implementations above all and the framework to provide currency for the 21st century. And so far, I think Bitcoin's taken a good step in that direction, and a few other competitors as well in the peer-to-peer digital currency space. But it's really going to be a question of what blockchain and crypto is made for, and who's going to really lead in that charge, who's going to be the victor, and what are going to be the currencies that we use in the future. There's a lot of competition right now, but not a lot of doing, a lot of talking. And I think Nouriel brings up some good points in that regard, predominantly the craze in the ICOs and the speculation going on. There's always speculation, though, in markets that eventually become something, I think, much more than we can even imagine that they would become. So anyways, that's it for the live stream, everyone. I'm sorry, my mouth's getting dry. I got to get some water. We've done about an hour and 15 minutes of rambling here. If you guys want to get some more info, keep talking with people, get the brain going, and just continue the discussion, hop over into our Discord, guys. !Discord to give you the link. Love to see you guys over there as always. And again, keep learning, keep your mind open. Don't look at things in a black and white nature. Always see things and a unique perspective. Always be willing to hear from different people. I'm rambling at this point. I hope you guys have a great night. Hope to see you on the Discord possibly. And until the next video, I'll see you all in the next one. Stay tuned. Oh, and I almost forgot. Obama out. Believe me. We're going to end the live stream here. It's one of the most fantastic live streams I can tell you, probably in the history of live streams ever. You heard it here, folks. Have a great night. Enjoy my tax cuts.